Where do I even start? I just realized it has been 2 months since I made a video, and I feel like a horrible person, pretty much. But I'm here, and I think the reason it's taken me so long is that there's been, kind of like I said in my last video, there's been a lot going on, and then not a lot going on at the same time. Yeah. Animals, I don't know. Okay, so hello. If you're new, my name is Mackenzie, and I document my trying to conceive journey here on YouTube. It has been a huge resource for me, learning a lot of things about myself. I have PCOS. We've been trying for over 2 years, and I don't ovulate. And the last couple months, we've done a lot of things to be proactive in figuring out how I can have a baby. So the last video I made, I talked about how I was referred to a specialist. So I had been going to my normal OB up until a few months ago, and we did 4 rounds of Clomid, 2 rounds of Letrozole. We had planned to do a trigger shot since November of 2019, and most recently we were going to plan to do a IUI. I'm just going to update on my last cycle with my normal OB, and then I'll talk a little bit about the consultation and where I'm at right now with the specialist. So basically, we were kind of getting to a point with my OB that if the medication wasn't working and they couldn't figure things out, that she was going to refer me to someone. And we did a round of letrozole and dexamethasone, which dexamethasone is a steroid that I have just recently learned blocks testosterone, in hopes that the letrozole or like ovulation induction medication works a little bit better to grow your eggs. So I was doing 7.5 milligrams of letrozole for 5 days along with the dexamethasone. And I did a normal kind of cycle in the sense of follicle scans. So how I had been doing it, and still am doing it, is I would go in on around day 3 for a baseline follicle scan. That's just make sure that my lining shed and there was nothing left over from the previous cycle that would hinder a new cycle with medication. And they just want to verify that everything looks good before they give you medication. So I went in on my cycle day 3. Everything looked good. I started my letrozole, which we actually started on day 5 instead of day 3, because since I have trouble ovulating and have trouble growing eggs, they just thought maybe the later or pushing it a little bit farther out would be helpful. So I went in for follicle scan. Baseline was fine. I went back in on usually right around cycle day 12 to do a follicle scan again to see if my eggs were growing and if I was reacting to the medication. And on the day 12, everything looked pretty normal. I had a couple follicles that were around like the 12-13 area, and they wanted me to come back in a couple days to do a follow-up scan so that way we could plan the trigger shot and the IUI. So I was pretty hopeful with that cycle. It's been a couple months now, but I was pretty hopeful, and so I went back in a few days after that in hopes that my eggs would be around the 15 or 17 millimeter mark, and they hadn't grown at all. So I was pretty distraught about it. I was very discouraged. I was really sad because it's just the reality that the medication wasn't working. So I think after you do so many rounds of medicated cycles and virtually none of them are successful, you start questioning whether medication will even work and if IVF is like the only option that you'll have. So basically, that same day after that follicle scan, my nurse practitioner from my OB's office called me and just said, I'm really sorry, but I think we're to a point now where we're going to need to refer you because there's not much more that we can do. And that news kind of broke me a little bit, because anytime someone has been trying to help you do something and then they say, hey, we can't help you anymore, it's just disappointing, and you're having to open the door to something completely new, and it feels like you're starting over with someone else. So she referred me to a endocrinologist about 4 hours away from me, and she was very quick with the referral. She referred that day, and I got a phone call within a few days from them to set up a initial consultation, which I could do in person, or I could do like the telecommunication, I think is what they call it, or telehealth, where it's just like you Skype with them pretty much. So of course that's what I did. I would have loved to have met her in person initially, but just to drive 4 hours one way didn't make a lot of sense to me when we could cover the same kind of stuff over the phone or in video. So that's what we did. And about 2 weeks from the point that I was referred, we had our first consultation. It was about 25 minutes long, and all it was just going over my history. And she asked me a bunch of questions, and the specialist was very smart, which I guess you would expect, but she knew a lot about everything, and I think I might have been a little bit, what's the right word? Over-prepared, maybe? I literally made a Word document of a timeline since we had started trying, what every single cycle was like, if I started my period on my own, if I had to take Provera, what medications we did, if we had to skip that month, why, if I ovulated or not. Like, I just laid it all out because in my mind, whenever you're referred to another doctor, it is 100% best to be over-prepared, because the last thing I wanted to do was going into that consultation and not knowing answers to her questions, and her not having a good grasp of our experience so far in order for her to make like as educated as she could a decision on what the plan was to move forward. So I just wanted to be super ready, and I think that made a huge difference. So if there is one thing I can recommend to you, if you're almost to the point of being referred to an endo, or it's been brought up in conversation, start making just a chart of everything that you've done. Go back as far as you can remember, be as detailed as possible, and it will make a huge, huge difference. I think that helped our timeline moving forward once we had the consultation. So, had a consultation. She wanted us to come in, my husband and I, to do some testing. So like semen analysis, which we had not done yet, and a few other testings for me, including I believe it was an HSG, where they inject fluid into your uterus to make sure that your fallopian tubes are not blocked, and then a bunch of lab work. So we actually got in really quick. So 2 weeks from that point was our first in person. So we went in, and Jerry had his semen analysis done. Good job, babe, for doing that on the spot. And we had a bunch of lab work done. I had my HSG, and they actually found that I have a uterine polyp, which is like a mass essentially that grows inside of your uterus. A lot of women have them, so it's not uncommon, and it's something that they encourage to be removed, because essentially a fertilized egg could implant onto the polyp instead of your uterus lining, and obviously that would not be a successful pregnancy. So had the procedures done, had all the lab works done. Everything actually came back normal and good on both sides, Jerry and I. The only thing that they had found was that polyp. So she encouraged me to schedule a surgery to remove the polyp, even though we knew my issues started with ovulation and nothing really inside the uterus. She just said, you might as well get it removed while you're waiting for your plan, kind of thing. So I ended up scheduling that for mid-November, and ended up canceling it because, long story short, my work is changing insurance, and my insurance will be much better next year, and my out-of-pocket was going to be over $3,500 for that surgery, and I just didn't want to do that. So I had asked her, I said, hey, is it necessary for me to get it done right now, or could it wait, until after the first of the year? Maybe we can continue trying until then. And she said, obviously there would be a chance of miscarriage if something were to go wrong with implantation. She's like, but I also have a lot of women who are pregnant who have had polyps or didn't even know they had polyps and they got pregnant, and their pregnancies were completely fine. So she said, that's fine. You can wait until after the first of the year. So that was the plan. And then we got to talking about the plan as far as treatment cycles, so medicated cycles. She actually then referred me to a office here and close to where I live, so just about 20 minutes from me, because she knew that me driving all the way up 4 hours one way just to do a follicle scan 3 times a month was just not practical, and I'm very thankful for that. So she hooked me up with a clinic near my hometown, and they are excellent. They're so kind, super proactive. I am just very thankful that I ended up with them. Same kind of thing. I was referred, and within 2 weeks, I went in after I started my cycle, and right now I am cycle day 10, possibly 8. That's the thing with irregular periods. Like, I never know if my all-day spotting is cycle day 1 or if I'm not actually starting my period till 3 days after that. It's just complicated. I'm thankful that I'm starting my period on my own now, because for over a year and a half I was having to take Provera just to induce a cycle. So I am thankful that I'm regular for me now, which is anywhere from 25 to 45 days. But I think I'm cycle day 8 or 10, somewhere in that area. So, current day, or what's happening right now, I went in for my baseline last week, and they were a little bit concerned with my uterine lining being a little too thick at the time of cycle I was in, but I think that also had to do with me thinking I was a little bit later than I was. So cycle day 10, and I'm still bleeding, which also, still is not abnormal for me. I feel like I bleed for like a week because I have a thicker uterus lining. Anyways, so this is where I'm at. Went to the baseline. Everything looked pretty good other than my thick lining. So they actually informed me that they do letrozole for up to 12 days, or is it 10 days? Maybe it's 10, and they do their highest dosage is 12.5 milligrams, where I had been taking 7.5 for 5 days. So basically, the RN or nurse practitioner said, with people like you who maybe it takes a little bit longer to grow your eggs, you have trouble ovulating, we tend to do higher dosages for a longer period of time just to give the follicle enough stimulation to grow, and long enough where it's, you're not getting to a certain size on your follicle and then all of a sudden you're stopping your medication when they could have used an extra couple days. So we are doing 12.5 milligrams for 10 days on letrozole, and then we are also doing the dexamethasone steroid as well for 10 days. It's a pretty low dosage. I think it's like 2.5. So, yeah, I'm excited, and it's just all just kind of happening, and I think you learn to just go through the motions, and some days you're excited, some days you're just kind of numb because you don't want to get too excited because there are obviously no promises. But today I went in for my follow-up follicle scan, so it's my second scan they usually do in a cycle, or anywhere between day 10 to 12. And I have a follicle on my right ovary that is 15 millimeters, a little over 15, and then a couple in my left ovary that are 10 to 12, which is super exciting because over the last year plus, I haven't had any follicles get over 12. So the fact that I have one that's 15 makes me super excited, and that I still have a few more days of letrozole, so a few more days of them having a chance of growing, makes me super, super happy. So I'm just glad that I'm to a point where I can actually use my trigger shot that I've had for over a year that actually expires next month, which kind of makes me nervous. I don't know what it is about expiration dates, but like it gets close to the expiration date and I just think it's like not good. But I think I looked it up and you can actually use it past its expiration date. But Anyways, wouldn't that be perfect timing? Like actually being able to use my trigger shot that I've had for over a year the month before it expires, and what if I got pregnant? Like, super cool. But anyways, so today is Monday. I am going back in on Thursday for another follow-up follicle scan because usually they grow on average like 1.5 to 2 millimeters a day, I think I read, or every 2 days. So by the time Thursday rolls around, we're hoping they're in, one of them is in the 17 to 18 millimeter area, and then we can plan to do our trigger shot and then plan the IUI. So super, super excited. I'm just thankful. I'm just really thankful. I think that's just how I feel. Just to be at the point where I can even, or at the point where taking a trigger shot and doing an IUI is actually plausible, because I've never been able to get to that point. It always ends for me on my second scan when they don't grow, and then it always ends for me for sure on my third scan when they haven't grown any since my second scan. So the fact that I have one follicle that is close to being big enough and I still have medication to take for a few days makes me feel like that this might work this time. And I'm trying to be optimistic in the sense of, if I don't get pregnant, but I am successful in ovulating or growing eggs large enough to trigger, that it is a successful, cycle for me, and it's a win for me, because it's never happened. Over 2 years, it's never happened. So, making progress. My takeaway from all of the back and forth referrals, that kind of thing, is that you end up at a place where you should be, and at a place that is a little bit more aggressive with treatments. So if you're nervous or scared or saddened or disappointed or discouraged by being referred to someone, definitely look at it as a positive thing, because an endocrinologist or, reproductive specialist, that's what they do, is they figure out how to make things work right. Whereas your OB, they can do like basic stuff, basic treatments, but that's not what they do every single day. They usually work with the pregnant people, not the people needing to get pregnant or wanting to get pregnant. So I don't know. I feel good about it. I just hope I can get to the point to actually use my trigger shot and do an IUI, and just cross my fingers and just hope that it works. Because it's not cheap, and I think they say like the chance, or how do I word it? They usually say that it takes about 4 rounds of IUI on average for a woman to get pregnant. So it kind of sucks thinking about having to do 4 more, but it's been over 2 years now, so what's 4 months, But super stoked. Cycle day 8, 10-ish right now. In a couple days going for my third scan. Hopefully my eggs are big enough to use my trigger and then go in for an IUI. And then 2 weeks. Then you wait 2 weeks. And I feel like most trying to conceive gals are what I call clinical testers, or you are obsessed with taking pregnancy tests. So when you take a trigger shot, you are injecting the pregnancy hormone into your body. So anything within like 2 weeks is usually a false positive, because your body still has the HCG hormone in it. So that will be hard to not do. Just for fun, I might test it out of my system, because I would be kind of curious. And also that kind of gives you a baseline for a possible actual positive test. So by being able to watch the line disappear, and then if it reappears, it's definitely a little bit more confirmation that it would be an actual positive instead of just the HCG in my system. So I might do that. But that is my update. Yeah. There's been a lot going on in our lives. Sometimes it feels like it's hard to keep up with infertility and trying to conceive when you've got so much other things going on. Like, My husband and I have started our own business over the last 6 months. I still have my full-time job, of course, but when the virus hit, he was temporarily laid off at his work, and he was a manager where he was working for a trucking company. And long story short, they just said, "Hey, we're not going to need you until the first of the year." And he said, "All right, well, this is my chance to get back to what I love doing, and which is building shops and decks and privacy fence and doing beautiful things to people's homes." And he is so good at it. I know everyone likes to like brag about their significant others and like their friends and things that they do, but I have never believed in someone as much as I do in my husband, and his ability to build and create things. And his work is beautiful. So yes, anyway, so we now have 2 full-time employees. We're super busy. We're booked through the end of the year, and I just feel very grateful. Of course, it's super hard right now because, you're trying to figure out all the things for the business and putting money into it and being very frugal with the personal side of things, because to us, we're all in. It's all or nothing. So when you get into a business like this, you have to just be all in and devote and dedicate everything to it and just hope it works. And I believe in him enough and his abilities that I know it'll work out. But it definitely makes it stressful and hard on, finances and seeing him when I can, because he works late and he works on weekends, and he's just trying to get his foot in the door and everything going, and it's going to be worth it. And then we're also trying to have a baby. You know how people say, like, no one is ever, like, truly 100% ready and to have a baby, and, like, even the people who try for years and years, like, there's still going to be a doubt in your mind every now and then, like, oh my gosh, is now the right time? But yes, it is. Anyways, that's that. So, crazy busy, but super hopeful. And wouldn't it be perfect to be able to tell, like, my family and stuff on Christmas as their gift that I'm pregnant? Like, what better gift is that? A baby, and I don't have to pay for anything. That's really horrible of me to say. I'm still doing gifts, but you get what I'm saying. So there's my update. I apologize again for being a horrible YouTuber and taking so long to update you guys. I love connecting with you guys. I say that every time, but I love talking to you guys on Instagram. Absolutely love it. I love hearing your stories. I love talking about your experiences. I love you asking me questions and asking me when I'm making videos, and it makes me just feel good. So thank you for that. You can follow me on Instagram. I think my tag name is Mackenzie JJ, McKenziJJ. So follow me on there. You can see what we're doing with our business and ask me any questions. Connect with me. I love it. And if you guys have any questions regarding the video I made or previous videos, comment down below or message me on Instagram. Anything you want to know, or if there's certain videos that you want to see, let me know. I'd be happy to make them. I don't know what my next video will be. I kind of want to make a tips video for going to your first infertility consultation with a specialist, because there are a few things that I would have liked to see going into it if I wasn't the crazy, like, over-prepared person I am. But maybe that could help. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my Monday off, because this is the first day that I've been able to just, like, sit on the couch and be a potato. Because that's fun. And it's raining. You can't do anything outside. And yeah, so I'm going to go be a potato right now. Yeah. I'm happy about it. And I'm happy that I have little eggs growing in my body. Good job. Okay. I will see you guys next time. I promise it won't be 2 months. It'll be a couple weeks. That's all I got. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.